What is up, everyone, and welcome back to Love, Money, Rock, and Roll. In the previous recording session, we decided to go along with Kagome's little hostage idea. Not my first, not my first choice, alright? But as we found out, my first choice was honestly not the best option. So yeah, we went along with her little plan, and to no one's surprise, it absolutely fell apart, and Kagome and Nikolai ended up on the run. They hid away in a, remote mountain village where they lived there for an entire month. Eventually, they confessed their feelings to each other. They boned several times. Himitsu shows up, throws a wedge in the relationship, then apparently, assumedly, yeah, I'm bringing that word back. That word that's not actually a word. Assumedly, Kobayashi's goons showed up. And then so Kagome and Nikolai ended up fleeing the village. Kagome says, hey, let's go back to Tokyo. Nikolai is like, what? No, you're crazy. Let's not do that. So anyway, they ended up back in Tokyo. And then Kagome rushes off, leaves Nikolai behind. She goes to the Kobayashi Corporation to confront the big CEO himself directly. He ends up taking her kind of like a hostage. Like, her and her family are free, but they're technically not. Not really. Nikolai himself storms in there. He gets into Kobayashi's office, has a whole little chit chat. He realizes what the situation is with Kagome. He catches Kagome outside of the building, gets a little one-on-one with her, asks to see her dad. Convinces her to set up a meeting with her dad, but then who does he bring to the meeting with her dad? Oh, the KGB lady. So now the KGB lady and Kagome's dad have worked out a plan to give Kagome's dad amnesty in Russia in exchange for, I'm guessing, dirt on Kobayashi, and somehow, some way, this is going to get Kagome out of Kobayashi's clutches. Which everything sounds great until you realize, this whole thing was so Kagome could get her dad out of Kobayashi's clutches. How is she gonna feel about him being essentially just taken in by Russia, and she still never gets to see her dad again? That's the one thing that I know it's gonna sour this moment, because right now it just feels like everything's coming together right. It's like, everything's coming up good. The good things are happening, but that one little detail, it's like, how's she gonna handle that? But yeah, we're picking up shortly after the conversation between Kagome's father and the KGB lady. We've returned to the Kobayashi building. And without further ado, let's jump back into it, shall we? Twilight was slowly descending upon the square in front of the Kobayashi Corporation building. I was sitting on a bench for no real reason, waiting for God knows what. It was all over. The KGB knew what they were doing, and Akira-san would keep his word. So there was nowhere to hurry anymore. Kagome was safe. Except how was I going to explain to her what had happened, exactly? How could I explain to her that she'd probably never see her father again? It's a tough one, bud. Nico-san? I raised my head and saw Kagome, who was slowly approaching the bench. Hi, I was waiting for you. Waiting for me? Here? She said with surprise and stopped a few steps away from me. God, this isn't going to end well. Yeah, I hoped that after everything that happened, you'd get some freedom of movement. She said nothing, only gave me a strange look, as if I'd counted her change at the supermarket wrong. I've handled everything. Yeah, no, wait, ugh. It was hard to look her in the eyes. Yeah, no, you've really handled it, bud. Don't worry, I took care of everything. You're going to be pissed, alright? You're going to hate me for it, but I took care of it, so don't worry. Handled what? I've solved the problem. Oh, Nico. What problem, Nika-san? Kagome started to get annoyed, as she should. You know what problem. It's just hard for me to say it out loud. So you're going to say nothing? No, of course I won't. It's just... I sighed, stood up, and walked closer to her. Everything's going to be alright now. We can be together again. You met with my father, she said monotonously, there we go, as if stating the fact. Yes, and he wanted the ground to open and swallow me, just to avoid this conversation. did what he had to do. We had no other choice. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what you expected, bud. Don't know what you expected, my guy. Kagome's facial expression changed from indifferent to surprised, and then scared. Dad? What happened to him? Listen, he's just taking a vacation. A vacation, an indefinite vacation, over to Russia, of all places. Man just wants to explore, European country, and he's just like, you know what, Russia seems like a good place, which, whew. Do you remember I told you about that woman from the KGB? Watch her face just get pissed. I began to babble, stumbling over my words. This afternoon, I accidentally ran into some important-looking people in Kobayashi-Jun's office and figured out that the old man has his hands full with other problems. The project your father used to work on, and mine too, this wasn't a coincidence. There it is. Yep. Where's Dad? Mm-hmm. Because that's what she's going to bring up. Is like, at least when she was taken by Kobayashi, she at least see her father again. Yeah. She asked me sternly. Mm-hmm. Here it comes. Well, I don't know where he is right now, but I think he'll be in the USSR soon. What? Nika-san? I was prepared for her to try and hit me, but Kagome started crying and threw herself into my arms. Not what I expected. How could you do this, Nika-san? She wept. It was his decision. We simply had no other choice. As long as he stayed in Japan, your father would have remained hostage to the corporation. And you too. But the KGB... You think Kobayashi Corporation is any better? After all, they were the ones who killed my parents. Although we weren't talking about me. Sorry. I don't know what else to say. It seemed that on some subconscious level, Kagome had been prepared for this. Of course, she couldn't have guessed that I'd send her father to meet Irina. But when I told her I wanted to meet him, it wasn't difficult to figure out that the outcome would be bad for all of us. Bad, but necessary. Kagome was quietly crying into my chest. I thought you'd just ask him for some documents. In a situation like this, the best document there can be is a living person. What will happen to him there? Irina's told me many times that people like him are of enormous value to them. After all, when we first arrived in Japan, we were met appropriately. But it's... I knew she was referring to the words about the evil empire spoken by a mediocre actor who achieved more success in politics than on the screen. And though I'd only recently been pondering the concept of patriotism in my mind, it still rubbed me the wrong way. You think we have bears walking the streets with machine guns in their paws? No, that's not what I mean. She interrupted me with a sniffle. It's just that your country is so far away. It's cold there, and will we ever see each other again? You will. I'm sure of it. And what will happen to us? I couldn't believe that Kagome wasn't angry at me. Or at least she wasn't showing it. Yeah, no, it kind of took me by surprise too. Perhaps she just had to deal with so much lately that the poor girl had burnt out and just threw herself at the mercy of the closest person left in her life. That is fair. Except for Mariyuki-san. The old man would barely be able to help. Akira-san and Irina are supposed to resolve the Kobayashi-Jun problem. That was the condition. And yes, your father, he already thought he would have to leave Japan one way or another. Nico-san, you shouldn't justify your actions. Am I justifying anything? I started arguing for some reason. I know that you did what you believed was right. And my dad also did the right thing, in a way. It could have ended much worse for all of us. And I'm thankful that you're with me now. She hugged me tighter, and I felt a tear run down my cheek. This is horrible. It shouldn't be like this. The whole world. I guess Kagome had a difficult personality. No, definitely wasn't an easy one. But at just the right moment, she understood everything as clearly as possible, and supported me. I guess I also had reasons to be angry for abandoning me then. But this sequence of mistakes, wrongdoings, deception, and pain we inflicted on each other brought us to this square under the rays of the beautiful setting sun. In this square, with only the two of us, because the ever-present scurrying gray suits had all disappeared somewhere. So had the ugly Kobayashi Corporation building, and all the other skyscrapers in Tokyo's central business district. So had the capital of Japan itself. There we were, outside of space and time, drowning in each other's arms, hoping that this moment would last forever. Just like two cripples, blinded with tied legs, we crawled to the finish line hand in hand. Because, and not in spite of. I knew I'd made a lot of mistakes. I knew that Kagome had too. Kobayashi Jun and his entire damned corporation had made even more. I didn't know what was going to happen to him now. Akira Shinji had partially paid for his mistakes. I didn't know what Akira Shinji's fault was. There was probably something too. But I knew one thing. Kagome and I had suffered a lot to have this moment. We deserved to be here and now. To be together. The sun had almost disappeared behind one of the office buildings, marking the end of the day. Nika-san? What? Shall we go home? Fuck yeah. Humans aren't made for happiness as such. Only when looking back do we realize whether a certain moment was happy or not. Oftentimes, utterly trivial situations may appear happy after a time, even though there was nothing special about them in the moment. True enough. The first rays of warm sun in spring, still weak but so longed for after winter, the melting snowbanks and a warm breeze, the breath of the awakening nature. The usual view outside the window of a train, forests, fields, villages, and stations passing by. A beautiful sunset, a sky gradually filling with stars after it's over. Such moments may seem totally banal when you're living through them, but they become priceless after a day, a week, a month, or a year. I would have never thought I'd recall the time when Kagome and I had been living in that mining village with nostalgia. But so it turned out to be. Kobayashi Jun had to comply with our demands and free Kagome. I didn't know how the situation with Mikhail ended, but the old man disappeared from the front pages of newspapers and seemed to have stepped back from actively leading the corporation. Oh! What? Hell yeah, okay. Alright. Wait, my pot. Okay, it is called Hear the Wind. I figured after the chorus that might be the case. I just want to know ahead of time, because I'm definitely going to want to listen to this later. This song fucking bops. Anyway, I should probably keep going. I can't just stop and listen to the whole song, but like, I was not expecting the whole voiced outro. I wonder if each heroine, each love interest has their own special outro. That'd be interesting. But anyway, Maruki-san suddenly received a substantial insurance compensation for his restaurant. It was enough to buy a small house in the same district on the waterfront. Of course, after all that, Kagome couldn't go back to school, so she had to transfer. I barely managed to pass the graduation exams and complete the school year. Catherine returned to the US. Himitsu and I didn't see each other very often, only talking about boring everyday stuff when we did. She seemed to have come to terms with the fact that I was with Kagome, but still indicated that she was doing me a huge favor by keeping in touch whenever she could. See, that's the thing. Like, when I started playing this game, I loved Himitsu. I loved her to death. But the one thing is, like, she just can't let go. She just can't. She's so obsessive about it. Like, I know early on I compared her to, like, Sumika from Love because, you know, the whole red-headed childhood friend, just appearance-wise, and then, like, the trope-wise, they're kind of like the same trope, right? But, like, at least in Love Extra, like, whenever you chose a different love interest other than Sumika, Sumika could accept that. Like, when you acknowledge, hey, I'm with this girl now, Sumika's like, alright, shit, bet, alright, I'll step back. Himitsu, and it's like, it's even saying, like, this epilogue now, it's like, okay, nah, I had to stop and appreciate that little drop there. No, but like, Himitsu, like, it's even saying, like, she just can't let go. She's still, like, even dropping hints now that she's like, I'm helping you by by keeping in contact with you. Like, yeah, shut the hell up. Well, I let it be. A bad peace is better than a good war. Fair enough. At school, people looked at me like I was a terrorist. Not many of them had talked to me before, but now they would go out of their way to avoid me, giving me a wide berth and only talking to me if absolutely necessary. Including Michael. Only for Kyosuke, nothing seemed to have changed, which was strange given his indirect involvement in the whole incident. Waiting in the car at the mailbox, visiting Maruyuki-san, the threats from the corporation. Maybe my chubby friend had more nerve than I'd thought. Or maybe he just enjoyed our friendship that much more. The KGB disappeared from my life as suddenly as they'd entered it. That was understandable. Irina had gotten what she wanted, no longer had any need for me. I was nothing but happy about that. Naturally, we weren't getting any news from Kagome's father. Kagome herself had been very depressed about that at first, but seemed to have somewhat calmed down after we graduated from school. There was no reason to assume that he was being treated badly in the USSR. There was no reason to believe the opposite either. Kobayashi Jun seemed to have left us alone forever, but sometimes his unseen presence could still be guessed at. Kagome did indeed get into Todai, which was much more difficult after she left our prestigious school. I, on the other hand, didn't have such an opportunity. Even if I wanted to continue studying, we had to live somehow, since the money I got from my parents ran out. Mining experience wasn't particularly useful in a city, so I was constantly rotating jobs. A shop assistant, a cleaner, a courier, and so on. I guess, on a conscious level, I was prepared for it to be that way. Someone with no education, knowledge, or skills isn't of much use to anyone. But psychologically, it turned out to be much more difficult. Of course, Kagome supported me, but I had to watch her strive for something and pursue clear goals, while I would just get up just to go to a job I hated every morning to earn the money we needed to buy the cheapest groceries and pay the bills. 100 years ago, the vast majority of people lived like that. That wasn't a particularly comforting thought. Being in the shoes of an ancient Japanese peasant at the end of the 20th century in Tokyo wasn't at all satisfying. When there are only poor people around you, being poor yourself is natural and acceptable. When skyscrapers grow all around you like mushrooms after rain, and the average bill at a restaurant easily exceeds your monthly salary, you feel crippled and flawed. And most terrifyingly, you don't understand what you're lacking, whether you just lost the genetic lottery, or luck isn't on your side, or if you're to blame for it all. Or maybe all that at once. I'd finally found love, but not self-realization, or even self-actualization. I had no understanding of what I wanted to do in life. Even if someone gave me a well-paying job, there was no guarantee I'd be happy per se. I had to run as quick as I could just to stay where I was, which made it hard to think about or plan for the future. Although before that, back at school, I had much more time but wasted it just the same. Forcing around for years, knowing I'd have to pay the price sooner or later. And then finally, find myself facing the need to pay it, flailing around in a puddle face down, all just to not drown. But as time passed, Kagome finished one course after another, and her grandfather decided that he was too old for life in the capital, sold the house, and went to live with his sister in Hokkaido. Kagome also received some of the money from the sale, and I, for my part, kindly offered to let her move in with me. You could say we became a family, but in reality not much changed, except maybe that household matters were easier to handle together rather than alone. However, the longer we lived together, the more I realized that something had to change. Our relationship, tempered by many challenges, would last for a long while, but I couldn't rely on that alone. One day, Kyosuke and I went to a manga exhibition, and then to a bar with a couple of artists he knew. I really liked the art one of them drew, but the plot to his manga was just terrible. After he had another mug of beer, we made a bet that I'd do a better job if he liked my work, he'd draw illustrations for it. Of course, at first it was just a joke, an entertaining experience, an opportunity to distract myself from the routine that was slowly killing me. But it turned out surprisingly decent. Our work was first appreciated by friends and acquaintances, then at the manga club at Kyosuke's university, and finally at some local gatherings of anime fans. I have never been inspired by the stories about superheroes or allies of justice that were popular in Japan. My long-standing love for Dostoevsky influenced my perception of literature and writing. The protagonists were never black and white to me. It was much more interesting to work in a gray area, truly is, elegantly balancing between absolutes, revealing characters' personalities from all perspectives, not just those necessary to achieve the intended ending of the story. Nice. If I had been such a one-sided protagonist, there's no way I would have won Kagome's heart, true. Maybe I'd have ended up way worse than Raskolnikov from Crime and Punishment, or maybe I'd have accepted my status as just a normal person, preferring death of the soul to death of the body. I guess the additional factor that played a role in our success was that our manga was quite unusual for the time. Instead of witches and giant battle robots. Yeah, witches and giant battle robots. I like how he calls out the two biggest fucking visual novels I've played. Way to go, man. Witches and giant battle robots. You're right, my guy. I came up with a story about a pioneer camp and a guy from the future who ends up in it. Really? That's what we're going for. Okay. So Everlasting Summer as a story exists within this universe. Okay. So not only was Everlasting Summer just a trippy experience, but now the whole story of Everlasting Summer is in and of itself is a story within this universe. That's fucking wild. But okay, go off. A bit of mysticism, a bit of Soviet atmosphere, some memories I had left from my childhood. In short, our manga was popular, even though we were printing it ourselves in small editions. Soon enough, a not particularly popular magazine offered to publish a one-shot from us, with the possibility of further serialization. Of course, I was beyond excited. I don't think that Kagome ever loved manga, but still fully supported me, financially as well. Publishing manga required significant investment, and my salary was only enough to buy food. Kagome, on the other hand, had the money from her grandfather, and she also took a part-time job at a renowned law firm. At that time, I already knew my personality wouldn't allow me to live off my girlfriend's money for long, especially if she were to become my wife one day. The money didn't flood in at once, and at first rather resembled not particularly generous tips, but I didn't think of it like the steady salary of a handyman. Somehow my income from manga felt well earned instead of just being a handout, the financial equivalent of a contract between me and society, with me pretending to work and society pretending to pay me a worthy salary. Maybe it wasn't so much about the money itself, but the fact it was the economic equivalent of acknowledgement, popularity. People liked my work, and I could feel that I was doing something good where I belonged. Anyone could have replaced me at my previous job, but not now. My story existed in a single copy, reliably hidden from the world in my head. Nobody could continue or finish it, except for me. At least, the way it had to be continued or finished. If Leonardo da Vinci had suddenly died while painting the Mona Lisa, some other artist could perhaps have finished it, but the world would have lost the masterpiece we all know now. No, of course I didn't take myself for a genius. I just liked what I was doing, found satisfaction and fulfillment in it, a proof that it wasn't for nothing. Over time, my revenue grew, along with my popularity. Naturally, I couldn't help but give credit to the artist, my co-author, to who our manga owed at least half of its success. Although deep inside, I still believe that a beautiful picture without the proper meaning behind it is just a beautiful picture. I didn't know how serious Kagome had been about my work at first, or if she only supported me because she loved me, but soon enough even she had to acknowledge that I wasn't just a useless boyfriend anymore. Of course, in Japanese society, so-called real professions are held in higher esteem, whether that's a miner or an office worker. Nevertheless, almost everyone younger than 25 liked manga, although not everyone was willing to acknowledge it. Kagome would often read our manuscripts before they were sent to the editor, occasionally saying that she enjoyed them, but always refraining from giving more detailed feedback. And even if she did it out of politeness, I was still grateful. Without Kagome, I would have never ended up where I did. And it wasn't only about her love, moral, and financial support. Without Kagome, I would have never managed to believe in myself, that I could achieve anything in a field where you're competing not so much with others as with yourself. We weren't producing chocolate bars. If you buy one at a store, you probably won't go for another. And if you do, you should think about your blood sugar. But if you read an interesting manga, that doesn't stop you from reading another one at the same time. Of course, there's the matter of limited free time, but that's just details. And then a few more years passed. Sometimes I'd wake up together with Kagome to keep her company during breakfast. Of course, there was no need to get up that early. I worked from home, and so found use for the empty rooms. One became my office. Ooh. 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 Kagome in the suit? Whew. Sheesh. Oh, I love it. God. Oh. And the way they tweak her appearance just a little bit to make her, be like, yes, time has passed. She's older. She's an adult now. It works. You don't have to. He's proposing. Kagome was sitting across from me while I was enjoying the omelet she'd made. Okay, well, not too late. Alright, go on. Okay. I like it. Yes, she still cooked wonderfully, even though she did it less and less often. The business attire fit her perfectly, it sure did. My memories of her baggy jumper and old jeans brought nothing but a smile. But I want to. Thank you. She smiled cutely, but immediately changed the topic. Congratulations on releasing another one of your tankobons. When you say another one, it sounds a bit... We're making cars on a production line, you know? If you say so. Something had changed about her personality over the years. Maybe. Not even changed, but it's somewhat become softer. Not so radical and angular. I love this chorus. And other things remain the same. I mean it. You're the first person to say that one has to be a professional in what they do. I'm not saying you aren't. I really liked the latest chapter. Thank you. I was really tempted to ask what exactly she liked about it, but I managed to restrain myself. What about your work? Is everything going as usual? What's as usual? As usual is... as usual. I didn't want to delve into the boring specifics of corporate accounting either. I was happy enough that she at least hadn't ended up at Kobayashi Corporation. By the way, it had been a while since we last heard anything from about them. You know, there is something new. Yeah? Interesting. I leaned on the table and moved closer to her, supporting my head with my hands, making the most stupid grimace I was capable of. It's not fully related to work. Uh-huh. Fine, it's not related to work at all. Uh-huh, that's even more interesting. You know that our company works with many foreign suppliers. Uh-huh. Nico-san. She got annoyed. Some things never change. Fine, I'll be quiet. So recently we were contacted by a Russian company. There was a lot of new business after the USSR fell apart. I immediately pulled back and sat more comfortably in my chair. Even after the USSR dissolved, I hadn't really thought about my homeland much. There were too many things to deal with in my current life. But I couldn't neglect the fact that my motherland fell apart either. Well, they want to come to Japan for a preliminary negotiation, and on the list of their delegates I saw a surname. She stuttered and looked away, and then I understood. Of course Kagome would be the last person to regret the failure of the socialist state. Let me guess. Akira? Akira Shinji? Yes! Her eyes lit up and a happy smile appeared on her face. Fuck yeah. I don't want to ruin the moment, but don't you think you could have at least called first? Even if there's something left at the KGB, I'm sure they have more important things to deal with. We didn't talk much about her father. I think, deep inside, Kagome held that frail hope that her father was okay, and didn't want to destroy it with unnecessary conversations that wouldn't have changed anything anyway. I understand, Nico-san. He might have had his reasons. Besides, are there many Japanese with this name working and living in Russia? She suddenly raised her voice. Don't shout, it's not my fault. Sorry. Of course, first I had asked myself why her father was even allowed to work for a private company. Although, to be honest, I had a very vague idea of what was happening in Russia. However, thinking logically, I'd have assumed that instead of searching for a job, he'd try to return to Japan if he had the opportunity. But I didn't want to disappoint Kagome. So when did they arrive? The beginning of next month. October then, I said wistfully. Nico-san? I'm just thinking. How many years has it been? 7, I think? 7, okay. Oh shit, so now we're 94? Alright, y'all are like mid-20s? Okay. Yes, 7. Kagome grew embarrassed. Girls remember these things better. What girls, exactly? If you mean Ellie, Just recently, she met Ellie at some high society dinner party, though I didn't know the details. Oof. Yeah, I'm sure that turned out well. In any case, Kagome ignored my mention of Ellie. Don't you make notes? Notes? What? I asked with surprise. Well, notes for manga. Writers make those, don't they? So I don't have notepads full of those in your office. Well, why would I need to make notes? I remember events from my own life without them. I did in fact remember very well how many years had passed, although maybe I'd struggled to name a precise date. And the date of what exactly? That time when Kagome was bullied at the gate? Our first kiss? Our escape from Tokyo? That conversation with Kobayashi Jun? Really? So when was it? She straightened out. What exactly? You said you remember everything. That's the problem with remembering everything. If I start listing every event, you'll be late for work. Yes, after all, I can be late for work, but you can't. Why? If I stay in bed the whole day, I'll skip work, in a sense. Miko-san, you aren't children anymore. I'm only 25. I've got my entire life ahead of me. She suddenly went quiet, bit her lip, and turned away. What? Isn't that right? You can't only live for yourself. Is that a question, a statement, or an invitation to start a philosophical dispute? Alright, fine. Put my hands on the table, locked my fingers, and made a serious face. I also live for you. That's good, of course, but at this moment she really looked like that girl on the roof 7 years ago. I see you haven't run out of good news for today. What are you talking about? Seems to me that you want to tell me something but can't quite bring yourself to. Is she pregnant? What makes you think so? I just sighed in response. She was embarrassed, and to be frank, I looked quite stupid. You know that I'm a writer, right? A scriptwriter, a manga author. Kagome got specific for some reason. Yeah, right, it doesn't matter. But if I had to write this sort of scene, I'd write it exactly like this. Oh wow. How meta. What scene, Miko-san? Kagome kept persisting, even though she had been the one who started this with her hints. Fine, tell me when you're ready. Naturally, I had a fountain of emotions inside me, but I'd managed to learn over 7 years that Kagome needed space in a relationship. If she needed time to prepare for something, my job was to give as much of it to her as possible. So you aren't interested at all? She suddenly frowned. You don't want to tell me. Alright, you know what? I jumped off the chair, quickly collected the dishes from the table and brought them to the sink. Miko-san? What? I returned to my seat. Kagome looked at me in a way that made me remember the time when we went to the festival in that mining village. I wondered if they still held it. They probably did. It would probably be a good idea to go there someday. So many memories. And that Yukata had to be lying around somewhere in her wardrobe. I wondered if Kagome would fit into it now. Miko-san? Yes? I returned to reality. Kagome reached out to me over the table, and I immediately took her hand in mine. Everything will work out for us. During meetings with my readers, I'm often asked who my favorite female heroine is in manga. I always respond that all of them are my favorite. Of course, yeah, you gotta take the middle ground, you know. I guess that is actually true. Well, I mean, there are some authors who'll be like, no, this one's my favorite. I like this one the best. Would anyone believe me if I honestly said that I don't know? Each has her own charm and magnetism, and it's extremely difficult to pick one. Maybe if Kagome were in my manga, she wouldn't even be the main heroine. Crazy, right? That'd be so strange, right? Like, she's not, like, the main one they're trying to push on you, right? Maybe a pioneer leader or a librarian. Yeah. You mean the ones that weren't actually heroines at all? Yeah, okay. It's one thing to not be one of the main heroines. Like, what, there were two others? There was I'm thinking back to Everlasting Summer. There was the 4 main ones. But then there was the 5th one. And then there was the 6th one. But they definitely weren't the pioneer leader or the librarian. Perhaps the main character would pay no attention to that quiet girl. No, there was a quiet girl in Everlasting Summer. And believe me, I didn't want to pay attention to her. That bitch was crazy. Luckily, we weren't in manga, and unlike manga, my world wasn't black and white. Although perhaps it had been before I met Kagome. But she painted it with all the colors of the rainbow and brought me a happiness that I once thought could only be found in books. And in manga. Is that it? Loading? Really? Really? Okay, okay. I love Kagome's route. That was great. Well, I mean, probably my favorite thing about it is the fact that, obviously I started out like really liking her, but then we got to the whole, taking Ellie hostage thing, which kind of made me be like, oh, is she crazy? I think she's kind of crazy. But then like you go further into the story and realize, no, she's not crazy. It's just a really fucked up situation. There's really no right answer to anything that's happening. You can't really put the blame all on her for it. And she quickly escalated to my favorite. She got it back. Also, they kind of brought everyone else down. Like already, I didn't like Catherine, and Catherine really didn't do shit this route. She just kind of appeared, popped up every now and again, but then left. Ellie. Ellie, like, I wanted to like her. I wanted to like her so bad, and every time I felt like I was liking her, like something happened where she would just, I think the one thing that really irritated me was after you first confront her, or like talk to her about Kagome's father being missing, and then she tells her friends that she's being accused of murdering and burying someone in the woods. It's like that kind of exaggeration in the way, I think she did that a couple other times as well, and how she constantly like defended her shitty rich friends. Like, yeah. Nice. But yeah, and then when they revealed that Himitsu was just really obsessive, like that kind of, it really brought down my interest in Himitsu. I'm not gonna lie. When they were just when they showed that like, nah, she really is like obsessed. It's more than just like, I'd like to extend our sincere gratitude to everyone who supported the game in the many years of its development. Thank you. Hell yeah. Like I said when I first started this, I've been following this game for fucking 3 goddamn years now. And already, this one route alone was more than worth it. Oh my god, we got more music, let's go. Yeah, let's keep it moving, thanks. Wow. But yeah, no, like I said, this one route was more than worth it. Like, I pointed this out on Twitter the other day, the fact that, as of the last recording session, I had put just as much time into this game as I did with the entirety of Everlasting Summer. The fact that one route in this game was longer than that entire story is insane. It just shows like how much work they really did put into it. Like the fact that I'm already 20 plus hours deep into this and I still have 3 more routes. It's wild. But yeah, no, like I said, I loved Kagome's route. It was fucking great. The ups and downs, the twists and turns of it. Oh, so fucking good. So fucking good. That's the thing that kind of sucks about like finding your favorite character right away, is then like the rest of the routes I just don't feel that are gonna live up to it. I'm gonna play them. I'm excited for them. I'm sure I'll enjoy them to some extent, but like I feel like I peaked right away. I feel like I peaked, and now like everything else, like it's gonna be good, but it's not gonna hit that. It's not gonna hit the same. I don't like that feeling. I want it all to hit, But yeah, this is where I am going to end this video. In the next video, I will start up. Fuck, whose route do I know I said I wanted to do Himitsu's route, but like I said, like Kagome's route kind of pointed out the fact reasons for me to not like Ellie and Himitsu. So I don't know, and I don't care about Catherine. I really don't. Kagome's route did nothing to make me dislike Catherine even further, but it gave me absolutely no reason to like her. Catherine's just kind of there. I think next video we'll start. I think we will go with Himitsu's route. She's a little sweetheart. I like her. We'll give her the chance. But yeah, like I said, getting this video here. So until then, peace.